everyone, and I am very obviously not Travis talking at the moment. Otherwise, he would be here welcoming you to the latest Drunk Friend podcast. And the reason he's not here is because he has real responsibilities to attend to. And that leaves me, Alex, aka Sinestrunk, in charge, which is definitely not a good thing. That's very bad. I don't know what to do when I'm the only person here. Like, what do I do? It's just me. Like, what's the alien tagline? Like, nobody can hear you scream in space or something like that. That's what I feel like right now. It's like the silence in between my sentences is going to suck me in and just destroy me. So yeah. On that note, I'm going to read some emails real quick before I get to some business I need to attend to. I want to read an email from William, and he says we got some really nice emails from you guys. You keep it up. You guys are amazing, giving us this great feedback. He says, you guys fucking rock, especially for being a brand new podcast. I'm similar in age, and I can tell you I've never been into collecting video games all that much, but for whatever reason I enjoy watching videos about people talking about them. Now your podcast is that shit. You guys keep it real, and I enjoy your guests. With this being said, how do I help out? I really enjoy this, and I want to see this podcast grow. Thanks, fellas. William. And really, William, first, thanks for the great email. It's super nice to get. It's like everybody likes hearing that kind of stuff. And the way you can help out is just rate and review and subscribe and all the stuff you hear. You hear it on every podcast. So I feel kind of weird saying it for myself and on behalf of somebody else. But that's how you can help us, is just like leaving a review and a rating and all that sort of stuff. So we also got another email from Robert, who is a longtime viewer of SNES and he's a super cool guy. And he says, hello, friendly podcast buddies. Thanks for asking Dan about the console wars. Yeah, I'm one of those guys who wish the wars never ended. Dough. So I wouldn't mind you asking every guest to pick a side and defend themselves tooth and nail. That's actually, this is me talking now, not Robert, but that's a very good idea on something we should have been asking everybody up to this point. So that's an excellent point. Robert continues, but more seriously, I was recently wondering what gaming magazines you once read, if you still read any today. He says, I'm a big fan of Retro Gamer and Edge, but they're British, so perhaps they're less well known in the USA. I was lucky enough to read Nintendo Power as a kid, so that's really cool, Robert. And then, so I'll answer that. I read a lot of gaming magazines back in the day, but I only had one subscription, and that was Nintendo Power. But every once in a while, my dad would bring home like a Game Pro, or maybe my brother would get a Game Informer. I still have the Game Informer that features Mortal Kombat 2 that has every finishing move detailed, like everything you need to do for every finishing move in that game for Super Nintendo. I freaking poured hours over that thing. And EGM was another one. Can't say I've heard of Retro Gamer or Edge, unfortunately, but Robert continues on his email with his all-time Timberwolves team, talking about our 90s NBA podcast, the last podcast we had with Mr. Friday Night Arcade, a.k.a. Aaron. He's got his starting five with shooting guard Wally Zerbiak, or I should say shooting guard small forward Wally Zerbiak, and then he's got small forward power forward Kevin Love, power forward Kevin Garnett, Karl Anthony Towns at center, and then Michael Williams at point guard? Michael Williams? What? And then his bench is Ricky Rubio, Pooh Richardson, Sam Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, Tom Gugliotta, and Christian Leitner, and Nikola Pekovic. First of all, I want to say I definitely approve the inclusion of Nikola Pekovic, because that guy was a force of nature. But Michael Williams at point guard, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is that? You got to go Terrell Brandon at point guard. The history of the Timberwolves point guards is very sorry. The history of the Timberwolves in general is just very sorry, very sad. It's terrible. It's garbage. I'm not going to mince words. It's garbage. I would put Karl Anthony Towns on the bench. I'm not he puts up great numbers. I'm not that impressed with that guy. I don't follow the NBA that much, but it's my list. Whatever. I would put KG at center. I'd put Kevin Love at power forward, and I'd put Tom Gugliotta as my starting small forward. I might put Doug West at shooting guard, actually, and then put Terrell Brandon at point guard. But the Timberwolves are a sorry franchise to say the least. Anyway, coming up next, I panic because we don't have a host and Travis isn't here. What the hell do I do? I don't even know what to do. It's podcast stuff. I'm just a video guy for games people stopped playing 25 years ago. What am I supposed to do with a podcast? I mean,
what's the problem,
geez.
Alex?
Whoa, is there somebody there?
Yeah, it's me, Rob. You told me that.
Robert?
You asked me if I wanted to come on the podcast tonight.
Robert from the Classic Gaming Podcast?
Yes, indeed.
Oh my God, dude, you're a lifesaver. Thank you for saving me.
Oh yeah, no problem. I can help you out. I'm basically a pro. I can tell you how to do this.
Yeah, if anybody knows how to host a podcast, it's somebody that's hosted Classic Gaming Podcast, available on classicgamingpodcast.com for the past 6.5 years, starting December 2013. And the latest episode is available, featuring Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I can definitely. Yeah, that's me. I can help you. The first thing you do is say, you introduce your podcast by saying hi, something along the lines of "Welcome to this podcast," and you say the name of your podcast.
Hi, welcome to DrunkFriend.
Perfect. Yes, perfect.
What do I do now?
Okay. Next is. Okay, here's the problem. I don't have my other usual co-host.
Oh no!
And so I'm actually a little bit lost.
Where's myself. Jay? You don't have Jay?
No, nope. He's not here.
He doesn't live at your house, in your basement, or in your wine
cellar?
cellar?
No, he actually doesn't. No, he doesn't. That's what a lot of people think.
Blake doesn't live there. I gotta throw Blake reference in there.
No, Blake doesn't either.
Yeah, we gotta recycle that one again. Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh man, I just want to say it's good to hear your voice. Good to hear a familiar voice in these trying times. How are you dealing with everything so far? What's going on?
Yeah, it's good to be on here. Everything's going pretty well with me. I work from home, so this is not, that big of a change for me. The only thing that really is that right now I can't really go out and go on walks or get exercise because I'm allergic to everything in the world. And right now is when everything in the world is blooming and spraying pollen everywhere. Mm-hmm. And usually it's not that big of a deal. I will get like a respiratory infection around this time of year. But right now I really, really don't want that to happen given, the coronavirus going around. That would be
absolutely not.
That's a bad combo.
Yeah, that's bad.
So I'm really staying inside 100% of the time and not getting any cardiovascular exercise and not getting to, not that much sun because aside from exercising, I usually just get out during the middle of the day, usually once a day and just go on a quick walk. So I'm not getting any of that. I feel a little bit unhealthy, but I'm not like bothered by being inside. It's not taking any sort of mental toll on me. So overall, I'm doing pretty good.
That's good.
How about you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm also working from home. I just had one of those like work meetings. We don't use Zoom. We use something else for work, but we had like a department meeting for like 30 minutes where it wasn't even like a work meeting. It was just everybody like, okay, everybody vent. Everybody just like say what's on your mind right now.
Nice.
We're just at the point with my workplace. I work at a community college, and we're finally at the point where everybody's online now. It took us forever to get that point. Yeah, it's been rough for a lot of people, but I've been online since like March 17th, I think. So this is like I'm coming up on month number 3, like entering month number 3.
Yeah.
Working from home. So it's like, this is fine. Like I was talking to a coworker, Paula, the other day. I don't know why I started her name. She doesn't listen to this, but
maybe she does.
She was like, I want to work from home all the time. And I was like, yeah, why can't we? Like, that sounds good to me. So
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, I think certain people do. Yeah. It would make sense for certain personality types to not waste fuel and resources to drive and have the aggravation, because that's really the whole thing for me is dealing with traffic and the Department of Transportation in New Mexico, just in my way every day.
Yeah,
like screw that. Like get out of my way. Like why can't I just stay here and just because I'm totally capable of doing my job from home. How about you?
Oh yeah, I mean no problem at all whatsoever. And it's funny. It's been kind of weird for me. Like coincidentally, the place that I worked before I started working from home, it was a 4-minute drive, and then like even the gym that I go to is like a 6-minute drive. So everything is super close. Everything that I've ever had to do has been like very, very close to my house. So, commuting has never been an issue really for me anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially now, obviously my car, I started up like once a week lately, and that's really about it.
Doesn't it feel weird to drive?
Kind of, yeah.
Like the other day, I drove to Costco. I made our first trip to Costco in like 3 months, and probably since the year started. I don't think I've been there since like the winter break.
They're not a sponsor, are they?
If they are, no, they're not. Dude, one day, maybe. I'm clutching my heart right now. Costco, you're in my heart right now. But but when I drove there, I have to take the highway there, and I swear it's only about 5 minutes on the highway. And when I got off the exit ramp, I swear I got that weird feeling when you've been driving for a long time on a road trip, and it's like your peripheral vision is like zooming by you, and it's like I've been driving 70 miles an hour for like 5 minutes, but it was the first time I've been out on the road since like, however long. It was super weird. Have you experienced that at all?
No, because still any place I've had to go is drive, like down the road, basically.
Yeah.
So no, I have not experienced that, but I have not had the opportunity.
Your car's not giving you is like having trouble starting or anything like that?
No, not yet, at least.
It's not giving you the crazy
No,
starts.
it's really it's doing pretty well. I'm proud of it. It's hanging in there.
Right
but
on.
Speaking of familiar voices, I think that you might have been the first guest we ever had on the Classic Gaming. I think.
I beat out Gaming Jay?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yes, I'm fairly certain I think you came on like a long time before. I think I discovered you a long time before I discovered him.
I would not have ever guessed that, because you have on guys like Gaming Jay, Chase the Night Cleaner, who else? I'm trying to think. Because for a while it was the three of you. I mean, for a long while.
Yeah.
It was you, Jay, and Blake, and then Blake. I think he wanted to do his Twitch thing, right? The only
person I'm wondering is that at one point we did have on a listener. We had some sort of like contest thing. Long story short, and we had a listener on.
I'm trying to think. Like, I know you had somebody on like super early, and that's who it was. Yeah,
maybe that was okay. So maybe you were after him.
Yeah.
But
how dare that guy?
It's been a long. You've been on periodically on our podcast for quite a long time. I just realized that today.
I love your guys' podcast. It's super fun. It's super laid back. And you and Jay have a great camaraderie. You guys, what makes podcasts super fun, especially in your guys' case. You're up to episode number 144. For those that aren't familiar with Classic Gaming Podcast, and you're talking about Shantae, Mario Kart 64. On the episode before that, you're talking about, you guys talk about everything, like under the sun, all games. You're talking about Ys, WarioWare, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, like you name it, you guys have talked about it. It's freaking everything. And even better is that you and Jay have like the funniest running gags of any gaming podcast ever, because And part of what makes that so much fun are like the emails that you guys get. And you guys have always been super cool about like sharing. You guys have like a huge section of your podcast dedicated to emails. And so I was going to get to this later, but we might as well just get to it now because it's funny and I like it. It's you have that one listener that was keeping track. For instance, just to give you guys an example, you guys have a listener dedicated to keeping track of how many times Robert says the word like. And what was the count? It was over 1,000, I think, wasn't it?
No, it was 10,000. I forgot when he did the count. It was, I want to say it was somewhere around maybe episode like somewhere around 100 or maybe 110 or somewhere in that ballpark maybe. And so first off, here's the thing that blows my mind is we have a lot of listeners so one thing, we have a lot of listeners who find out about the podcast and they want to go back and start at number 1 and listen to every single episode and catch up. We hear that over and over again.
Yeah.
That's a lot of them.
A lot of those emails. Yeah.
That's a lot of them. Yeah. But the thing that really blows my mind is we actually have some that once they get done, they start over again. And this one listener, Jonathan, did that. But not only did he start over again, we had noticed, kind of like one of the running gags you said, that I tend to say like a lot. And so he decided to count every single time I say the word like. And he even like divided it up into different uses of the word. Yeah. He even divided it up into different uses, like where I say it as, in a pause in a sentence like I just did then, or if I use it to say I like this game or I don't. He even like broke it up into categories.
I didn't even know he did that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. But the final count, whenever he did it on every single episode, the tally was 10,000 something.
Oh my God. I was going to say, I sounded like Luke Skywalker there. 10,000? We could buy our own ship for that. Like, man, oh man. That goes with the territory of just like sticking with it. Like, you guys are a testament of just sticking with it, not taking it too seriously and having fun with what you're doing. Like, that's what you guys are all about. It's super cool. Like, that's why I recommend you guys to like everybody is like, you got like the Super Nintendo podcast or the Super Nintendo subreddit. I'm sorry. They're always asking about like, is there a Super Nintendo 16-bit related podcast or whatever? And I'm just like, just go listen to classic gaming because they don't exclusively cover, Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo or whatever from any particular era, but they're super laid back and they're super funny and they're super like just fun because of stuff like that. Like mostly because of you guys encourage listener participation, and that makes it so much fun. And it's the old cliche. I think it's from like, I don't know if it's from Futurama or what, where it's like, it's not the lessons you learned, it's the friends you made along the way or whatever it is.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Like, when there I go again. When we started, so it was my idea to start the podcast in the first place. I was like, you know what, this will be fun. The whole reason I wanted to do this was just to have fun. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not in it for the money. I just thought it would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, right.
And so I came up with this idea and I was like, Jay, you in, basically? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I got in touch with Blake, back in the day, and he joined as well. And that all I wanted to do basically was have an excuse. There are really two things that I try to do with the podcast. One is I just like sharing thoughts and experiences and getting other people's thoughts and experiences on those things. So this is a way that I can play a game and not just be done with the game, but give me some way to talk about it with Jay and back then Blake, and not only them, but any listeners who want to talk about it as well. So that's one thing. Yeah. The second thing is just to have fun. It's just a fun thing to do. It's almost just an excuse to get in a call with Jay and talk about games and be like, oh, hey, we have to do this now, Jay. Like, he's my captive my captive audience, because now
got Stockholm syndrome at this point.
Now he's in it and he can't get out. But I mean, if we had no listeners, I would still try to come up with an excuse for us to have to keep doing this, just because I like doing it. So the whole purpose from the start was just to have fun. So that's why we kind of have kept that feel of, it's just, a couple friends just talking about games, keeping it casual, because that's how it stays fun. Is if you're just if you're not trying to overproduce it or take it very seriously. I don't even know how you would do that. For us, it's just getting together, talking about games, and we have fun doing that. So it kind of naturally just turns into a fun thing.
And another one of those running gags I like to refer to all the time is, what was it? That Jay is his short-term memory is not always the best.
No,
it's one of those things that only comes up if you listen to every episode. I'm just trying to sell the podcast at this point because it's one of my favorite things. And like Jay will I forget what game it was. I'm having short-term memery at this point.
I think you're talking. I think if you're about to talk about what I think you are, it was Heroes of Might and Magic 2, I believe.
Yes, and then the next week he's like, I don't think I've ever played that. And he's like, you talked about that for 30 minutes the week before.
Yeah, and I had sort of forgotten about that because that was a while back. That particular incident was a while back, but somebody wrote in about it, and they said that he was talking about it.
I think.
Okay, and I didn't quite realize right away when he starts talking about Heroes of Might and Magic 2, I didn't quite realize it right away that he had just played that on the last episode. But apparently he was going on about how he hopes to give it a try one day. And and then eventually I was like, wait, didn't you just play that? And he was like, I don't know. Let me check it out and see.
It's one of the funniest moments. I loved it. It was so, I had to just kind of put myself on mute at work, just stop everything I was doing and just okay, you guys need to give me a minute because this is hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. I even consider myself to have not a great memory. I remember. I don't either. I remember if I've played a game or not, but I often, if it's been a game that I haven't played in a while, I don't remember anything about, say, the plot, for instance.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I Final Fantasy VII, don't remember the plot. Final Fantasy VI, don't remember the plot. Even though I really, really love those games.
Yeah,
and
you just remember having fun playing them. Exactly.
I remember certain things. I remember overall how much I liked them and why.
Yeah.
But man, Jay, his problem is not that he can't remember specific plot details. I just don't even know what I played last week.
That's because he plays tons of stuff all the time.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does play quite a bunch of stuff.
Railroad Tycoon and I don't know,
that one was
Shining
me.
Force or whatever.
I was Railroad Tycoon, but he plays a lot of...
Oh, you were Railroad, okay.
I was, but you're right. He does play a lot of, Populous is one that he's played a few times.
And I remember him talking about Populous 2 in particular.
Yeah, and I think another thing with him... So, I think what happens with Jay sometimes is a lot of times he gets frustrated trying to find a game and he just will play an emulator version of it.
Yeah.
And I think in doing so, he maybe doesn't pay attention to... He doesn't pay much attention to, is this the second one or the third one or the prequel or whatever. He just
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
He just picks one and he starts playing it. And then... Because I think something similar might have happened with Populous, where he didn't forget which one he played, but he wasn't sure about where it lied in the series. He didn't know if it was the first one or the prequel or what. Or there's some situation like that. And I think that might be why he has that problem sometimes. It's because he's not really paying attention to the titles, actually. He's just like, this is supposed to be good. Let's jump into it.
Yeah. I have a guy in the SNES Drunk Discord that's my unofficial archivist, so to speak.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
His username is LHC Greg. So shout out to LHC Greg. He's been super cool to me over the years, and by years I mean the past maybe 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. But he, there's been a couple instances where I can't even remember. He
it was like some sort of like Super Famicom game where a commenter would ask like, hey, have you done a review on this game, et cetera, and I'll be like, no, that looks super cool, and then he'll not interrupt, but he'll like answer after me and be like, well, actually, you've already covered this game in this video right here, and I'm like, I did? I don't even remember. And
right.
It's a video from like 2014, from like 6 years ago. And I'm like, I don't fucking know.
That's amazing.
That's a million years ago. Yeah, he remembers that stuff. And it's like I'm getting ready to do a video on this Super Famicom game called Wagon Paradise. And
that sounds awesome.
It's very strange, as you might expect. It's I don't know if it's I'm on the preliminary stages of research. I don't know if it's based on a manga or anime or anything.
Okay.
But it's very strange. And I'm sure I've played it before, but I don't remember. So I have to I literally have to go back and look and see if I've played this in my own catalog, in my own I keep track of my own voiceovers and stuff like that. I keep all that stuff, but I don't keep like detailed notes. I just keep like kind of cliff notes of stuff.
Right.
And I don't know if I've covered this game before, so I have to go look and see if I've talked about this before. So that I'm not, that's something I kind of dread, to be honest with you. So it's kind of weird.
Speaking of Super Famicom, I thought about maybe buying a Famicom or Super Famicom. Yeah, and maybe getting a few, of the cartridge, a few games to go along with it, because, there are so many that I really don't like using emulators, just because they're a hassle. They're a hassle to work with.
Yeah, they can be.
So I basically don't ever use them. But there are, Famicom and Super Famicom games that I would like to play. Even if I can't read Japanese, I still think it would be cool to try some of those out. And plus, beyond that, the artwork on some of those boxes is so cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. They definitely outdid any of the US or PAL region, like super badass looking artwork on all those boxes. And they also utilized both the vertical and horizontal space on
that's right.
box, because sometimes you'd get one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. I had noticed that, but I hadn't really consciously thought about it. So that's true also. But they are so cool looking. Just to even have the boxes alone, I mean, that's almost sort of worth just dishing out for them.
Were there any in particular you're looking at?
Not right now, but for instance, one that would be maybe an early go-to for me, if I went Famicom first, would be Final Fantasy 3. And probably 2 even, but I'm playing Final Fantasy 3 right now.
Oh,
and,
okay.
But I'm playing the DS version, because that's the only version that there's an American version of.
Yeah.
And it's completely different. It's 3D. And it's just complete remaster. Not even a remaster. It's almost basically a remake. It's
a remake,
the whole thing.
yeah.
It's in 3D. And I played Final Fantasy 2 not that long ago, and of course that wasn't released in the States either. The closest I could get for that was the Game Boy Advance version, which is basically like Super Nintendo graphics.
Yeah.
I would really like to just definitely not play through the whole thing, but play a little bit of them, because I really, really love those original 8-bit NES graphics on the particular, not on every game, but on the Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 1, for instance. Something about that, I just love the way it looks and feels playing it. Yeah.
You are definitely in the minority there. I hear tons of people complaining about how those games play, how they look, and that sort of stuff. Oh, for sure, yeah. They're like, oh, this is super, like, what is this? This is that, just super outdated, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I never hear anybody say anything good about those games. I think you're in the minority, but that's a good thing. I like that.
I love sprites.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but
I like them
sprites
too. I like how they look too, because they're constantly in motion. And what is the gimmick of 3 though? I'm trying to remember what the hook of was.
Gameplay wise?
Yeah.
Well, so I'm about 10 hours in right now, and to me, it's interesting. I guess if you had to pull out a gimmick, It would be the job system, which is basically...
okay, that's the other job, other than 5, that's the job system game. Okay.
It is a job system game, but it's basically class... It's kind of in between a class and a real job system. What they mean by jobs is really just class, but you unlock more of them as you play through the game, and then you can switch among them while you play through the game. So that's kind of a limited... I'd call it a limited job system.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go. That's the hook. That's the hook to keep playing.
That's the hook to keep playing. For me, it's interesting. It's kind of it kind of feels like after following Final Fantasy 2, it kind of seems like I get the sense that they were like, maybe we took things too far away from Final Fantasy 1. Let's back off a little bit and try to rein things in and hit that sweet spot. And so there are some things where they actually regress and go back to, I say regress, they go back to Final Fantasy 1 in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And in some things I guess I don't know about any specific examples, but in some ways maybe they do take some things a little bit further. Sure. But they cut out some stuff that didn't work from Final Fantasy 2. They go back to some things that were just in Final Fantasy 1, like spellcasting, for instance. They go back to the spell slot system as opposed to the mana point system. And they also dropped the weird dialogue system. I don't know if you played 2, but in Final Fantasy 2 there's this weird dialogue system where you have to, if somebody says if they bring up an important thing that's related to the plot, it'll give the ability to highlight certain words, and then you have to highlight that word and ask them about it. Yeah, and then you learn about that word, and then you can use that word in dialogue.
They do that in like Shadowrun and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, and so it didn't add anything whatsoever to the gameplay, so they dropped that entirely.
Okay, it'd be really tough to implement something like that. And I haven't played Final Fantasy 2, but I would imagine it'd be incredibly difficult to implement something like that in an 8-bit universe.
The thing is, it wasn't really used in a difficult way. All it is you see a highlighted word, you highlight it and ask them about it.
And that's just like super simple.
Super simple. And then when you're talking to somebody, you have a list of things that you can bring up. That's added to the list of things that you can bring up. So you just make sure you ask everybody about everything that you've unlocked, because it's not that much. It's like 10 things in the whole game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking Shadowrun, where it's like, I think it actually does breach double digits like different things you can ask different people.
No, I think I know what you're talking about. And in Shadowrun, it makes a difference because it can kind of, it's not just required to advance in the game. If I remember correctly, it's more like, this or that might happen. You might get different things happen.
Certain people get like pissed off if you ask them about stuff, and then you'll start like a fight or something.
Yeah, this isn't that at all. This is more like, I hope you remember to ask them what this term means, because you have to ask this other guy about it later on in order to continue playing the game.
Yeah. Okay. I forget we're talking NES here. I'm like,
right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I'm off in
exactly
this outer space here, but yeah. Final Fantasy 3. So would you recommend Final Fantasy 3? Like, because I like Final Fantasy 5, and that has it's interesting how the early Final Fantasies kind of went back and forth for a little bit there. Yeah. Where 3 had the job system, 4 went back to traditional, 5 went back to the job system again, or class system, I guess. And then 6 was just sprawling everywhere, but it was basically turn-based, and they just went all over the place with all sorts of stuff, all sorts of ideas, and then 7 just kind of built on that. But would you recommend 3 if people liked, I don't know, 5 or 6, or where would you categorize that?
I wouldn't recommend it based on liking 6.
Sure.
I haven't played 5. I don't know. I'm not, so let me preface by saying I'm definitely not a Final Fantasy expert. It was a few months ago that I decided I wanted to play through all the Final Fantasy games, and I have played some of them, but definitely not.
What made you want to do that? Did you just like the first game?
This is really weird. I played Octopath Traveler.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can.
And
see
I
that.
loved it, and I was like, you know what? I want to play all the Final Fantasy games now.
I can totally see that. Octopath Traveler, like, I have only seen footage of it, but it looks freaking awesome. and it's on my list
I
of
absolutely
games
loved
to,
it.
Yeah, it's on my list of stuff I need to play. It's behind Streets of Rage 4 now. I gotta play it.
Right.
I played through the first level of that just the other day, and holy god, oh my god, it's awesome.
That's right up your alley, isn't it?
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. But yeah, no, that's on my list. I need to get to that, but that's really cool to hear. So
I loved that game, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to, first off, I want to start playing more RPGs in general. Second off, I think it'd be fun. I've always loved the Final Fantasy aesthetic. I know that's not really a solid concept, but in general, the aesthetics in their games I've always really liked. And I've played some Final Fantasy games. I played 7. I played 10 6 not too long ago. I played 10 a while back. And so, you know, I played a little bit of 11 and 12. So I had some experience, but not a lot. So I decided I want to go back and play all of them in chronological order. So I played 1. I really, really enjoyed 1. It's got a lot of problems.
Did you really?
Yeah, but I really overall, I really did enjoy it. Yeah.
Huh.
2 was really bad. In fact, I went back after I played it. I went back and listened. One of our very early episodes, Blake played that, and he talked about it.
Okay.
And one of the things he said is, so as you know, this was not released in the States.
Yes.
And then years later, it was released in the States on Game Boy Advance. But he said, one of the things he said was that this was not released in the States. And he said, in fact, I think that if it was released in the United States, it would have soured everybody on the Final Fantasy series. And I honestly agree with that. I think it would have turned people off because it's just very boring is really what it comes down to. I just felt like, I mean, so one thing they try to do is they try to add more of a story to it, which is cool, but they just don't really do a good job. And
is it just one of those things where it's too ambitious for its own good?
Not even that. It's like I feel like they
boring.
tried to. Yeah. I feel like they had reasonable. They tried to put a reasonable story in there that wasn't crazy, but also was more. But also was more than the first one, where it's just, you guys got to save the world. But they just didn't do anything to make it interesting. It's more. It's just like walking through the motions of a story rather than telling a story that anybody actually cares about.
Right on.
And then all the battles are just super boring. You don't have to give any thought to anything just about the entire time. The encounter rate is not crazy, but the dungeons are very long. So you have to play a ton of mindless battles just to advance in the game. And there's the kind of like dumb dialogue system that doesn't add anything to it besides just being annoying. And there's really just nothing. It's not that there's anything so terrible. It's that there's really nothing good about it.
I guess, yeah, that's the best way to sum it up then, is just the negatives outweigh the positives.
Yeah, there's not really a reason
significant
to play
margin.
Exactly. I would like to, play maybe an hour or so on the NES version just for the visuals, honestly, as we were talking about a minute ago.
Sure.
But yeah, it really just doesn't have anything going for it. The third one right now that I'm currently on.
Yeah.
It's definitely a step up past the second one. It's not fantastic. I'm only 10 hours in, so I need to give it a little bit more of a chance. And I'm going to play through the whole thing.
10 hours in an NES game is pretty significant.
It is, yeah. It is for an NES. But but Final Fantasy 2, that took me about 25 hours.
Damn, that's a shitload of time.
It is for an NES.
I would not
game.
have guessed that. Damn.
So right now, I'm liking the third one a lot more than the second one, but it's still not anything fantastic. And I wouldn't say, if you like Final Fantasy 6, you got to play Final Fantasy 3. No, it's
that's good to know. The
it's
public
fine.
needs to know this kind of information. Go listen to Classic Gaming Podcast. I'm going into
passable.
Seinfeld voice.
Yeah,
What's
go for it. Go there. Go do that.
So I have to ask, what inspired you to start the podcast, which, by the way, started all the way back in December of 2013, which coincidentally, which is a very strange coincidence, I started my channel in the summer of 2013, like just a few, like
really? Wow.
Yeah, my first video was September 2013, which was on Top Gear. Oh my God, it's the most awkward video ever. Do not go back and watch that because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do anything. My editing skills are terrible. My voice is terrible.
Hold on, SNES drunk Top Gear. Okay,
You're gonna get 2 videos because I redid it.
Top Gear series quick review. That's the one I'm.
Yes, going back to September 2013. Yeah.
I feel like I may have checked this out maybe like a couple years ago, and then I just don't remember about it, and now I got to do it again.
It's like, hi folks, the SNES drunk here.
The SNES drunk.
It's like, it's super awkward and just not good, not a good time. It's not very well, and it's also like kind of not. I only wanted an excuse to talk about the first Top Gear game. I didn't care about the other 2 Top Gear sequels. I just kind of was like, oh, these exist. There you go.
Well, I mean, our first episodes were not fantastic either. The sound quality is maybe the main thing. It's just really bad. They sound really bad, and then
enough people go back and listen to them. Like that's what's fun about catching up on a podcast and getting in on all the jokes is like you said at the beginning of this, is like, oh, I'm going to go back to episode 1. And it's like, holy shit, I'm going all the way back to like 7 years ago.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's super cool, though. I love that that's you keep those up, and that's there, and it's available for anybody to listen to. But that's a problem.
I recorded a disclaimer and added it to the beginning of the first episode.
Did you really?
Yeah, that basically says, hey, we've gotten maybe a little bit better since this one.
That's a heady play.
Maybe skip ahead a little bit to episode, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that. I think that's where we start to. It's still not, great, but it's there's a clear cutoff once you get to episode 7 or 8, where it's like, okay, this is actually listenable at this point.
I just want to say it's the most typical thing ever. Of course, the game you guys talk about in episode 1 is Final Fantasy Tactics. What else would it be but Jay's favorite game of Final Fantasy Tactics?
Yep.
Of course it would be.
What
and then
Final
episode
Fantasy
3 is Monkey Island, which is your favorite game.
Monkey Island episode 3. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's fantastic. It's so in character for both you guys. It's very much, that's what I love about your podcast, is that it's very much in character for both you guys. You guys don't fake anything. You guys aren't playing characters or like personalities or anything. You guys are just talking.
That's
wow,
too much
you guys talk about Chrono Cross in episode 7. Do you remember that? Do you remember Chrono Cross?
Yeah, I think that was Blake that talked about that one, and I remember him. I remember him saying that basically he hated it, and that it's kind of like a disgrace.
The subtitle says lots of disappointment.
Oh right, I remember him saying I was expecting to be disappointed, but oh gosh, what was it? But it was something like, he phrased it so much better than this, but he said something like, I was even more disappointed than I expected to be, or like even my disappointment disappointed me, or something.
Yeah,
it was something. It was something.
Even your disappointment wasn't enough, or something.
Oh no! He said he knew he was going to be disappointed, but he underestimated his disappointment. That's what it was.
Perfect. Yeah. As somebody that grew up loving Chrono Trigger, I did not like Chrono Cross at all. So I can 100% get behind that statement. And if you can't, too bad for you. All you out there listening, too bad, so sad.
Sorry.
Sorry. I think we should get to some listener questions.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you want to talk about your podcast some more. My voice
I don't
just
know.
Back there.
I don't know what else to say about it. Well, a minute ago you asked me why I started in the first place.
Yeah, why'd you start it? What'd you do?
I don't really have a good answer. The only it's not really something that I give much thought to, but now that you say that, I think what happened was a friend of mine, he kind of had his own sort of even more half-assed than ours podcast. And it wasn't even a podcast.
Like, I can do this better than this guy.
It wasn't that. It was like he gets on Twitch every now and then and records a little thing with his friends, like a short episode. I say a little thing. I don't mean that in a denigrating way. I mean like just a short, super duper casual episodes every now and then with his friends. And he doesn't even do it anymore. He did like 3 or 4 of them and stopped. This was 7 years ago. But he did that, and I was like, you know what? I could do that. I don't have to be a high production podcasts. I could do what this guy's doing and just do it for fun. And that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, it just came down to that. He just showed me his podcast, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like good either. But I just realized how fun it would be to do that, whether it was good or not. And so I just was like, hell, this would be fun.
It's interesting how when I talk to YouTubers on this podcast, the person that always comes up is Angry Video Game Nerd, James Rolfe.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, and he's always kind of the touchstone of like, well, this guy's doing this like homemade commentary kind of a thing, and I can do this. Like, I can do what he's doing, like in my own way. Like, if he's doing this, then I can do it. It seems like there's not really a thing like that for podcasts. You know what I mean? It feels like the podcast is kind of, I'm learning that myself, it's like, it's harder than I thought. It seems, it's like skiing. When I tried skiing when I was in 7th grade, I failed miserably. The people on TV make it look so easy. They're just gliding along the snow, and they're just like making it look so fun on those commercials and stuff like that. Like, hair loss commercials and stuff like that. And then when I do it, I'm falling over, head over, ass over tea kettle, and I can't do it. And when I did a podcast, I'm like, oh shit, this is like a totally different thing. This is hard. Like, I need to like make sure I'm ready. I need to like be prepared for things to like, like I don't know how to host one of these. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's still like a work in progress for me. Travis is the guy that's like super seasoned. He's been doing this. Polykill.com, folks. Listen to all of Travis's podcasts and all that stuff. But that was really tough for me, is just, they make it seem so easy, but it's not. You make it, the Classic Gaming Podcast, you especially are like, and of course, like, you guys are super casual, but you guys make it seem super fun. It's not as easy as you guys make it look either. You guys have the camaraderie, the chemistry, the inside jokes especially help.
Well, part of it is also that, there are different types of podcasts. There are...
for sure, yeah.
Ours is one that, in our format with us, it's easy to just be a couple guys chatting with each other.
Sure.
There are some where you might be, like yours, where you are interviewing people that you might not necessarily know a lot of the time. That adds an entirely different dynamic and a bit of stress. There are others where maybe it's a solo person doing a podcast, or maybe one or two people, but they're not chatting. They're telling about some historical thing, or, maybe it's a history podcast or something where you're not just chatting. You're telling a story. You're telling about an event that happened or a series of events that happened. That takes a hell of a lot of preparation.
Yeah, you're reading off an outline.
Yeah,
that's tough. Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, you guys, but the thing is, you guys make it look really, like, you guys make it seem effortless. Like, you guys just like a knife through butter, just like super easy. Like, oh, all right, here's another podcast. We just cranked it out.
So,
what do you I learned so much about so many games from you guys. Like, I didn't know shit about Might and Magic until I started listening.
Now you know all about Might and Magic.
And it's like, goddamn, there's like so much stuff. So it's like, yeah, that's what's, and I'm looking at your latest. I haven't listened to this one yet, but Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. If you want to learn about that, listen to episode 143 of the Classic Gaming Podcast.
I've been waiting a long time to play that game.
Tremendous. What do you think of that game? I need to know your opinion right now. What do you think?
My hot take on Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. I was actually very underwhelmed by it. I thought it was going to be a really fun guilty pleasure, but were you underwhelmed by the volleyball physics? Well, that was part of it. Yeah. I was underwhelmed by that, but I was more to copy Blake. I underestimated my disappointment even in the volleyball gameplay. None of, DOA Extreme Beach Volleyball. The whole point of that is to have 3D girls jumping around and watching them and stuff. And that, and I was like, you know what? This will be fun.
Xbox graphics from like, what was this, like 2008?
2000? No, it was like 2004 or something like that.
Oh, even earlier. Yeah, there you go.
And so I was like, this is going to be really amusing just to play around with for a little bit. And it really wasn't. There wasn't really anything too fun about it. In fact, there were some fun things. I mean, like there were some really funny things. One of the things you can do is go visit the pool. And when you're at the pool, you can play this dumb little game where you're hopping along these floating pads on the pool and you just try to get to the other side and you get like some points or something if you do it. But you can also just say, one of the options is just to rest or something like that. And it's literally just you watching whatever your character is, watching her just lay down and lounge on the side of the pool. And the camera kind of moves around slowly and stuff. And she kind of every once in a while will roll over or like scratch her arm or something like that. But it's very odd and creepy and voyeuristic. And that was kind of what I was like. I really wanted to see what all kind of stuff like that the game had, because that's honestly kind of hilarious. But
it really is.
And that part is, that's truly funny to watch.
That's some Leisure Suit Larry type stuff.
That's
right there,
definitely Leisure Suit Larry times 10. But the game itself was so frustrating that I couldn't even enjoy the rest of it because it was so bad. It was just so bad.
I would expect like a detailed like Final Fantasy Tactics style leveling system with like tactics centric. You know, like, okay, this girl needs like serving. This girl needs like follow up. This girl needs like blocking. Then you level up the net or something like that.
Yeah, you're not going to find that here.
Damn it.
I thought I thought I was going to get some guilty pleasure out of it, and I did not.
I'll cross that off the list.
Yeah.
Let's get to some user. What the hell am I talking about? Let's get to some user questions. Let's get to some listener questions. Sound like a readie. Sound like the guy from Wayne's World 2 listening to myself. Have you seen that movie where he's like, all right. He's like, he's like,
It's
that sounds like a blast,
I might like Wayne's World 2 better than Wayne's World 1. Actually.
Wayne's World 2 definitely. I saw that in the theater with my childhood friend when I was like 14, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved what is that guy's name? He does Mr. Burns' voice, and he does the radio DJ that I'm referring to. What is that dude's name? He's like in Spinal Tap, but that guy like stole the show in the movie.
I don't remember.
Where he's the radio DJ, and he's like, and Wayne and Garth are like, and it's kind of fun, and he keeps going,
Yep. But you're not really listening to any of this.
You're not really listening to me. I love that. I think about that all the time, and that just radio voice of It's like, God, that's how I sound right now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Listener question number 1 is from Sweaty. Would I be a jabroni if instead of getting a Super Nintendo, I got a Super NT from Analog? Would I be a fool for buying a copy of Earthbound for $180? I've always wanted to have it for a physical copy. What do you think?
These are two separate questions, right?
Yeah.
Either of those things make him a jabroni?
I guess. I think the main one is probably the $180 question of getting a physical copy of Earthbound, because that's kind of like I don't think a Super NT costs that much anymore, does it? I'm gonna look it up right now.
I don't know.
Super NT Analog, are these even like available now? I have mine and I love it. It's fucking awesome. I swear to God they haven't paid me to say this, but it's super like it's like flawlessly compatible with any TV I plug it into, and it looks awesome, and I don't even see a price here. Oh wait.
Is it does it so it's more compatible with
yeah, it's straight HD. Yeah, it's like straight HD. It's
so these are a little bit expensive. Oh, I see. Okay.
They're $190, and this dude wants to know if he should double down and get a copy of Earthbound for $180. I would say just get a Super Nintendo Classic. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you can do that. That would be that. I think that would be the best way to go. I agree with that. But if you just want the hardware and the cartridge for their own sake, I would say get the hard copy of Earthbound, but a real Super Nintendo.
Sure. I do have a hard copy of Earthbound and a Super Nintendo, and I got to experience that myself, and it was super fun. Yeah, I saw that you really like Earthbound. I wouldn't have guessed you to really enjoy it. I wouldn't have guessed you to be an Earthbound guy.
Yeah, you might not think so. This was even a few years ago before I was on my newfound RPG Enlightening, but I played it 4 years ago maybe on the podcast.
Yeah, I remember that. And I never ever would have guessed that you would have been an Earthbound guy. What about the game hooked you?
I think it was just the overall quirkiness. I really like... one thing I've noticed is that I really like games that are not necessarily super, off the wall, but quirky. Just enough to be like, what? Like, what's going on here? And so I love the Metal Gear Solid series. One of my favorite game series of all time. Yes. For that reason.
And Earthbound, the Kingdom Hearts series.
I don't know about that. Monkey Island also sort of fits into that. I mean, it's
absolutely.
A little bit more straight
that
comedy.
When I think of Monkey Island, you're the first person that comes in my mind, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. It's a little bit more straight up comedy. It's a little bit more in your face, not necessarily quirky, but there are quirky things about it. Like the whole premise kind of is quirky. You're a guy trying to become a pirate, but you're like a goofball who can't do anything right.
Right.
Earthbound, I think it's the quirkiness that does it for me. I mean, there are a lot of things about it. The story is really pretty good. I love the look of the game. I love the graphics. The music's really good. Some of the things that they do with the combat, not early on, but once you get a little bit later in the game are pretty interesting and unique. But overall, just like the weird nature of it, like that is the main thing. You'll be just talking to a random NPC and they'll just say
right.
They just say the oddest things, and I can't even think of any examples right now. Maybe you can, but anybody you talk to, just it's like nobody says anything that's quite normal. It's like kind of close to being something normal, but it's always weird in a certain way. And the enemies you face are not what you would expect any sort of normal enemy to be. And I love how some of it's normal, but it always has this weird, quirky, was kind of awkward edge on everything.
I love how like there's the I can't remember the name of the world you enter where there's like you fight artwork. That's
oh, the weird like one that turns black later on in neon. Yeah.
Yeah, and you fight like gas pumps and stuff like that. It's like, all right, this game has jumped off the deep end. It's fantastic. I love it. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, if you're really enthusiastic about Super Nintendo, yeah, get a Super Nintendo, get Earthbound, be a collector, get all that stuff if you're enthusiastic about it. But if you want to be cost effective, get a the game's on the SNES Classic and it's HDMI compatible, so just do that. Super easy.
I think you're right. If one special thing about Earthbound is the box. If you're buying not just the game, but the
for
box.
sure, yeah.
It's huge, and it comes with the guide, and it's
the
really
guide
cool.
that has the stink things in it. What are they called? Not stickers, but the cards. I think they are.
Didn't it have some sort of scratch and sniff little things?
Oh, yeah, scratch and sniff stickers. Yeah, that's what they are. And they are appropriately stinky. Yeah, they smell terrible. I have the guide. I don't have the box, but I have the guide, and it smells terrible. And I have to keep it in a plastic thing, not because of I'm looking back at it right now. I have to keep it in a plastic thing, like a comic kind of a thing, but not because of not because of its smells, but because it's just those things go for like $80 now.
I've not smelled mine.
Freaking, you should smell yours. Take a second and smell your Earthbound guide.
Maybe I'll do it later.
All right, so question number 2 comes from Karsten. What games do you consider having a good remake? And this is with he or she, this with the upcoming Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, if you were to have a remake with the Final Fantasy VII treatment, so to speak, what would that game be?
Oh, so not remakes that have actually happened, but what would I like to
what
be
would
remade?
you want to be remade?
Oh, man, that's a good one. Oh, jeez.
I got mine.
You go ahead. I might need a second.
We need a good ActRaiser remake. I was so
That could be
disappointed
good.
with Soul Seraph. It was such a freaking downer. It was a freaking phone game that was like spun off into. It was so lazily thrown together. I really want a real ActRaiser remake. Please give us an ActRaiser remake without lazy ass phone game stuff. I really just want that. Please. I love ActRaiser. It's such an addictive game. It's got the pace properly down, and I really just want that. I just want the pace between the two game modes of what is it? Going between the simulation, quote unquote, mode and the action mode where you're fighting monsters as a god or whatever. And it's like, why can't, like, give me one reason why this can't be a thing today. Like, this, it's ridiculous. So just somebody go out there and do it properly, please.
I would say a lot of, maybe like the X-Wing and TIE Fighter series.
Oh, man.
Maybe some of those games.
The X-Wing games from like the early 90s. You're talking about the DOS games, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
The space combat
Yeah.
sims. Because a lot of the games I'm thinking of, I'm like, I don't necessarily, like a lot of the games that I loved, I don't know if I necessarily want a remake of them. And that's not I'm not like a classic game purist. It's just that I don't know what you would necessarily do too much better with some of these, like Earthbound, for instance. Do you think there'd be any benefit of remaking Earthbound? I don't.
No, absolutely not. No. You'd have, it's the same, you'd be recreating the same dialogue, the same vibe, all that stuff. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point of that? Maybe I don't even know. Maybe like the original Metroid, that might be kind of cool.
Oh, the original Metroid I could see that with like an actual map on the screen or something like that.
Or what about Star Fox?
Ooh, there we go. Star Fox with Star Fox for Super Nintendo, but with just with more stuff. That'd be fun.
Oh, I've got it.
Uh-oh.
Mario Paint.
Mario Paint.
I think they could do something cool with that.
Well, like Mario Photoshop?
I think Nintendo could make a really cool artistic program based on like just slap Mario on the title.
Huh, okay. So, like, you're talking like, okay, let's take all the Adobe products and just put Mario Photoshop, Mario Premiere.
Basically, yeah, but make it easy to use, like the Mario Maker games. Like they did a pretty good job of making those very accessible, I think, to make a whole freaking Mario level. Just do something like that where you're just making art and you have lots of cool tools to
Isn't that
do cool
crazy?
things.
They're making like freaking Mario Maker game. Like, it's like, why can't you just? Yeah, that's crazy to me. As somebody that grew up in the 90s, the Mario Maker stuff.
Oh, that we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mario Maker stuff to me is just fucking insane. Like, to see the stuff that people can do, like sitting on their couch at home, it's just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you can make your own levels? What?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe another one, not too. So in the same way that I feel like the Final Fantasy VII remake is awesome, but the Final Fantasy VII original is still, like, you would still go back and play that. You're not just like, oh, I'm giving that up forever and only playing the remake from now on. I think you could do the same thing with Final Fantasy Tactics. Make kind of a more modern, like,
oh my God,
like a really cool tactics game out of that.
People would eat that up like crazy. Are you kidding? That'd be crazy.
So.
That would be like, have you been paying attention to the ESPN Bulls documentary with Jordan? That's how that would be received. People are eating that Jordan Bulls documentary up like with a spoon. And people are just going insane over it, like it's like real-time sports, and that's only because like there are no sports right now. But
yeah,
it's the same sort of thing. Like if you did Final Fantasy Tactics with like a remake with like modern stuff, that would be people would lose their minds. That's 100% the answer. Absolutely.
And again, that's not to replace the original one. You can like both of them and still go back and play the original one too. It is a fantastic game, and I'm not saying it needs an overhaul. But
you're always going to have Andrew on Twitter saying, "Well, actually, it's going to be." It's just like, shut up. Oh, yeah. My girlfriend's protesting in the other room. I can hear her.
Oh no.
I stole that. Oh my God, I can hear her. I stole that nerd. Oh, she's shouting at me. I stole that voice from her. She's the one that like kind of did that voice before I did.
We need to attribute that to her,
from
please.
Her. Yes, I need to give her credit. Pearl did that voice before I did. There, I gave credit. Are you happy? She said I approve. So, all right. Question number 3 comes from Mundane Designs. See, if you're gonna write in a question, you need to make your name a plug. So I say the name of your thing before I say your question. Like, what's his name? Like, I think it was the ARG podcast or something like that. Like another retro gaming podcast. It was like
just from the podcast.
Yeah, it was from the podcast itself. Sent a question. So Moandane Designs says, "What game story had the longest lasting effect on you personally?" I don't even have an answer to this.
What game story?
Yeah, which game story? My girlfriend's shouting Final Fantasy VII from the other room. She's obsessed with the remake.
I don't know if I would necessarily say that any has had a lasting effect on me personally.
I mean, video games aren't really known for their stories, right? They're known for being games. So it's like, I feel like we have a long way to go when it comes to games, or when it comes to stories, I mean.
There are very few stories in any medium that I would say have had a lasting effect on me personally.
That's a good point, yeah.
However, but so what I'm going to do is just simplify this question into the best stories in video games.
Yeah, for sure.
One that pops to mind immediately is Metal Gear Solid 3.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's in character for Robert.
This one
I'm just kidding.
The story is kind of ambiguous and enigmatic, and I don't say that in a way it's like, oh, you just got to think about it to understand. I still don't really understand what's going on, but something about it really impacted me. Is Dear Esther, which is one of my favorite games of all time.
I don't even know what that is.
It's not an old game. It's an indie game that came out about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And that one really, I would say maybe that one did kind of have an impact on me, even though I really don't quite understand it. Something about it was very moving to me. I mean, I love the Monkey Island. I love the story of the first Monkey Island game, even though it's not really heavily story focused. And I wouldn't say it impacted me. It's just a really fun and pretty, actually kind of good pirate ghost story.
Sure.
I don't really know beyond that.
Well, for me, it's obviously Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball.
There it is.
I mean, it's just carrying the Twins to the World Series. It's just, I can't get beyond that. How can you beat that? I really don't have a good answer to this. I guess the first game where I thought, realized that story could be a thing in video games was Chrono Trigger. When I realized that there could be multiple endings, based on where you beat Lavos, I was like, holy crap! Really? You can go back and do this again with the same character. It just blew my mind. So, And it wasn't necessarily the story of Chrono Trigger. It was like the function of Chrono Trigger with the new game plus. So you could unlock all sorts of other endings and stuff like that. It was crazy. It just blew my mind. Other than that, I don't even know. Like
one more that comes to mind for me that I'd like to mention is the Banner Saga.
I've heard you talk about that before. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that whole series. It's 3 games. It's really one story. It's Banner Saga 1, 2, and 3, but it's really just one full story that they need to stretch across 3 games because it's just a long story. That game is very, very good, and the story is very, very, very good as well. I highly recommend that one. It's a fairly recent game, but I really, really love that, and I love it so much, in fact, that I got kind of like Chrono Trigger. There are multiple endings, basically that it's all kind of determined on how well you do in the last few battles, more or less. I mean, the story does all sorts of different things until then, and it's good up until then, but you can get a kind of different levels of goodness on your ending. You can get a really bad one, really good one. I'm sure there are a couple in between. I definitely got the worst ending you can possibly get, but they handled it all so well that I wasn't even mad. I was like, well, that's just how that's how my version of the story ended, and I appreciate that, and I had an amazing time.
That was the Banner series, you said, right?
Yeah, the Banner Saga series, yeah.
Banner Saga series, I'm sorry. So, all you folks out there. All right, Robert, thank you for coming on our show and answering a few questions. So where can people find you and your podcast, and can you hint the listeners on an upcoming project that you might have brewing?
Yes, they could find us at classicgamingpodcast.com. We're also on various, basically just about any place you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Class Gamescast on Twitter. Let's see, coming up, I'm not sure what, so I know I'll probably be talking about 2 games on our next episode. We record every 3 weeks, and one of them will.
You guys are really good about that too. You guys are really like rhythmic about.
Yeah, we're pretty good about it. Usually we don't have too much going on to interrupt that, especially since it's, not every week or anything like that. But also,
right.
But at the same time, I try not to. Well, I don't. If one of us has, it's never a big deal if one of us has to put it off a week just for whatever reason. So, the point is to have fun, not to get burnt out on it. So yeah, but lately we have been pretty good about sticking to the schedule. The next episode, I'll be talking about the original Star Wars Battlefront, the one that came out in 2004.
Oh, I had a lot of fun with that game when it first
I never played it back in the day, but they just put in multiplayer, like online multiplayer on it on Steam. And so,
are you serious?
Yeah, and it was on sale for $5. So I was like, now's the time to get in and try it out.
Oh my god, I loved that game when it first came out. This is back in like what, 2003, 2004?
4, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I had so much fun with that. That was like really the first, at least to me, that was like the first Star Wars game that was like, oh shit, this is like your. I mean, I guess. Open world Star Wars game. It wasn't like Knights of the what the hell is that called? Knights of the KOTR.
Oh, Knights of the Old Republic.
Old Republic. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. No, it wasn't like a story driven thing like that. This was just like go around and shoot everybody as a Star Wars character. Like this was like freaking
it was just
fun.
It's just fun, mindless multiplayer. Go around and kill people. So I'm going to be talking about that. There'll probably be one other. I don't think I'm going to finish Final Fantasy 3 in time, but I might talk about, depending on if I might talk about Super Earth Defense Force. If I don't.
Oh, really?
That is, if I don't finish Doom 2 between now and then.
What? Doom 2?
Yeah, so it'll be one of those.
Wait a second. Okay, my head is spinning. Okay, first I got to tackle Super EDF.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of that? Do you have a specific weapon that you go to?
Oh, geez. I need to actually play it a little bit more because it was like a month ago that I played it, and I was like, I'm going to talk about this, and then I ended up playing some other things, and I didn't end up talking about it. So I need to revisit it. But, oh, geez. I think I used whatever's the Seeking weapon.
Yes.
I think I pretty much use that exclusively. So all I have to do is pay attention to dodging stuff. So
that's how it works in like Super Ghouls and Ghosts, when you just get the crossbow and then you get the armor upgrade, and then just like, okay, well, I'll just sit here and just shoot stuff.
Yeah, it's like I got to take care of
stuff goes
myself.
away.
So that was my go-to. I remember it being a super solid shooter. I need to go back and play it a little bit more to refresh my memory.
That's interesting. I don't hear many people. Again, that's why you want to check out the Classic Gaming Podcast, folks. But that's a game that I don't hear many people talking about ever. That's why it like perked my interest. Like, why are you playing that game? Like, how did that come up?
Yeah, it's on the Nintendo Switch, the Super Nintendo Switch online library.
Oh, right
and
on.
I was just kind of flipping through there one morning, just kind of like looking for something different to play. I was like, let's give this a shot. And that's really all there was to it.
Okay.
But hey, I've got a question. I have a question for you. You mentioned that you have been playing guitar basically for your entire life.
Oh shit, we didn't talk about guitar stuff.
Well,
God
I wanted to
damn.
ask you about your guitar stuff real quick, if we have time, if that's okay.
No, we totally have time. Are you kidding? Okay, let me tell you, everybody. Robert is a guitar player that has been recording stuff on his Twitter account that has been tremendous and super fun. He's been playing video game themes, basically, right? Like Earthbound
yeah.
stuff. The Earthbound thing is the one I saw today.
That was today, yeah.
Is there anything else from the past that past?
Let's get
couple
that
weeks?
plug in there real quick. I'm at King Octavius on Twitter.
Yes, King Octavius.
Can't forget that. But anyway, yes, I've done a couple of Final Fantasy ones. I did, or maybe just one Final Fantasy. No, 2 Final Fantasies, 2 Chrono Triggers.
That's what caught my attention was the Chrono Trigger.
2 Marios, 1 Earthbound today, and 1. You probably saw this one, Turtles in Time.
Yeah, the Turtles in Time one was tough.
That was the one I'm most proud of.
Yeah, how do you? So, how do you learn this stuff? Do you look up a tab?
No, I just honestly, I'm like, if I decide to do it one day, I'll pull up the song however I can, listen to it, just learn it from that, and then if I'm lucky, I'll get a solid recording of it within an hour or 2.
Damn, that's freaking badass, dude. That's super cool. Honestly,
It's fun.
That's like how you do it, like because back in the day when I first learned guitar, when I was like 12 years old, I was, what would the year been? Like 1994. I was like, okay, I want to learn All Apologies by Nirvana.
Yep.
Okay.
Has to be a Nirvana song.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I can either pay $20 at my guitar store to buy the tablature book, or I can listen to the song on my crappy cassette player a million times that I taped off the radio myself and kind of just just kind of like learn the notes myself. Like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like to do it myself. I think it's a good practice. It's a good way to. It helps me become a better guitar player to not just look it up, but to listen to it and however slowly. It's often one note at a time. But when I was a long time ago, when I was in high school and I took lessons for maybe about a year in high school. One of the things my guitar teacher was really good at was teaching me kind of how to teach myself. And not only that, but also kind of showing me that I was good enough to learn some of these things by myself. I would say, hey, I want to learn this song. And he'd say, okay, he wouldn't like pull up the tabs. He'd be like, all right, well, let's listen to it and figure it out. And then sometimes I would say, I want to learn this song. This sounds like a hard one. And I would play it for him. And he would kind of look at me and be like, you can't. He was like, you can figure this out. He was like, why? He almost like, why are you asking me for help with this? You can do that.
That's super cool.
It was super cool. And when he did that a couple times, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can do this by myself. And I really could some of the time. So that was, I think, one of the most helpful things for me. So now that's the only way that I like to learn anything now, is just listening to it. Again, literally
I love
sometimes
that. That's
one
tremendous.
note at a time.
Yeah, that's tremendous. I just want to humor my friend Gretchen from high school right now, because there was a guitar teacher that worked
at the guitar store we frequented way back in the day in the late 90s that did the opposite of that and was like, you can't learn anything without me. And
Oh, really?
yes, of course. And was like, this dude, his
He needs
name
that
was
income.
his name was Jeff, and he like produced his own demo tape with a drum machine, and it was like and he would make you sit and listen to this crap for half the lesson. It's like, here's what you should be doing. It's like, why don't you play like that? It's like, go fuck yourself, dude.
Why did you
This is
play like
garbage.
that? God.
So it really makes me feel good that you actually had like a real teacher.
Yeah, he was pretty
actually
good.
taught you something instead of like some garbage like I had or my friend had. So
He was a real character too. He was his name was T-Bone, and
T-Bone.
he used to he did all sorts of funny stuff. One of the things he used to say all the time was, "I only get drunk twice a year." And that's to remind myself why I only get drunk twice a year. And he also used to, sometimes when he would be playing, I don't remember what scale it is, but doing a certain note intervals, and he would do one that goes along with chestnuts roasting on an open fire. But every time he did it, he would say, "My nuts resting in your open mouth." He was a fun guy.
Oh, I wish I had that guy as a teacher instead of the guy I had.
I need to know real quickly, again, I don't want to keep you longer than you need to be, but I need to know what guitars you own and who are like your guitar
I just have
heroes.
one now. I just have the Ibanez AXS 32. Yeah.
Obviously I'm familiar with Ibanez, but not their model numbers. ASX 32. Ibanez is one of those companies that just puts like random letters and numbers on all their stuff.
They do, yeah. This is something I traded in. I used to have a Jackson because I was one of those douchebags that played a Jackson PS4 that had like a Floyd Rose bridge, that was, like super low action, and like you can't help but like play super fast, like
That's cool with me.
Yeah, that's how I
yet.
was when I was a teenager. I was like, yeah, I want to play Slayer and Metallica and Anthrax and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as I got older, I was like, I just want to fucking play guitar. Like, just give me a guitar with stuff. And that's why I traded the PS4 for the Ibanez. So that's what I have now. And the guitar and the acoustic I have now, I'm looking at it. I don't even know. It doesn't have like a brand on it. It's just like a regular Spanish like nylon string guitar. It's just kind of
so it's like a classical.
Yeah, it's like a cheap and crappy, like it's tuned to B. I don't know why I did that, but it's
Why not?
Yeah, why not? I don't know. But it's hanging there in my closet and I haven't touched it in a really long time, but yeah. What do you have? You have a PRS, right?
I do. I have a PRS and a Fender Stratocaster.
Yeah, you got a Strat, yeah.
And I have a Taylor acoustic as well.
Oh, damn.
I was very lucky that I didn't sell just about, a couple things, but just about any of my stuff I didn't sell in the 19-year hiatus I took from playing. And so when I started playing again, I was like, well,
yeah, what made you start playing again?
I've got a Stratocaster. Oh, gosh. It is a long story, but I'll make it a short one. Long story short is I got interested in electronics, and I started learning about electronics and how they work, and I started making things. And one of the things I decided to make was...
I'm sorry. You can just like take your time on this. I'm totally sorry. It was like I don't want you to feel rushed.
Okay, no, I don't know. My threshold for going on is very long, and I know many people. It's not quite the same. So
it's totally fine. Take your time.
So I started learning electronics a few years ago, and one of the things I was just kind of like looking for something to make to learn how to make. And one of the things I found was a schematic for an effects pedal. I was like, well, that'd be fun. Let me start working on this, and let me just pull out the old guitar. to test it out on. And as I started playing, I was like, holy shit, I'm back.
What was the effects pedal you found?
I don't even remember. I couldn't actually end up getting it to work. And I think what happened was I think I burnt out one of the chips that you're supposed to use in it, because I hooked it up. I'm pretty sure I might have hooked it up backwards in retrospect. It was just some weird, it wasn't anything standard. It was some weird kind of oscillating effect that somebody made, but it wasn't really just oscillating. It was just kind of some crazy effect that somebody came up with.
Sweet.
And so I tried making that and tossed that aside and ended up just playing guitar. I mean, I still do make some effects and play with electronics as well, but that was what got me back into it. And I was like, damn, I'm really into it now. And I practice like an hour a day on average nowadays once I got back into it. That was about a year and a half ago. So I'm really, really happy that I did.
Yeah, you're getting me back into it, man. I
really
haven't touched my guitar in years. I'm talking since I moved to New Mexico. Like, my guitars, here's the thing.
I hadn't played since I was
my guitar,
19.
Like, I got like my guitar hanging on the wall since, when did we move here? Like 2014? Like, I don't know what to do with this thing. And it's like, I see you like, oh yeah, I'm just like throwing out Turtles in Time. Here you go. Turtles in Time right here. And I'm just like, damn, I need to like get on this. And it's super inspiring. So I super appreciate what you're doing with your guitar stuff. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm having lots of fun with it. The first one was really spontaneous. I had just got done playing.
Really? You just did it like just because?
Just because the very first one that I posted on Twitter, I had just got done playing. Well, not done, but I had just for the night. I had just finished playing the Final Fantasy VII remake for a little bit, and that part on the Mako reactor escape scene where it goes dun 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 dun
yes.
dun dun.
Yes.
I was like, that's badass. I just want to play that. It's 4 notes that are all 4 notes directly in a row. So I was like, so it wasn't difficult at all, but it just sounds so cool that I had to play it. I was like, why not just post this on Twitter? That might be fun. So I did it, and then I had so much fun doing that, I decided to start doing some other stuff.
That is Robert, or no, that's which Twitter account is that?
Oh, that's King Octavius.
King Octavius is where you can find that. Yeah. Listen, Robert's a good guy. He's just a regular dude. He's a good guy. Thank you for saving me on this journey of trying to keep this podcast afloat. I really appreciate your efforts, Robert. I don't know if you were able to keep this podcast above water, but I hope you were.
I don't know either, but I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out eventually. I have to read this now. Do you do this now? Do you read a sign off before you go off?
Yes, I do. I have a little list of things to mention at the end and a little list of things to mention at the beginning. Like I always say, the episode, the date, and us, who we are. Otherwise, I wouldn't forget those things, but I wouldn't know what order to say them in, and it would all fall apart. And sometimes it falls apart anyways.
I totally fell apart for me because I don't know what to do. I'm looking at this now. Okay.
I wish I could help you out since I'm a seasoned podcast veteran, but like I said, Jay's not here, so
you're right. Jay is the glue. He's the glue guy. You talk about glue guys and NBA teams going back to the last podcast. Jay's the glue guy.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. I don't know. Anyway, all right, that's been another DrunkFriend podcast. Be sure to check out polykill.com for more podcasts like this one. And once again, reach out to us at drunkfriendpodcast.com. Sorry, drunkfriendpodcast at gmail.com. Let me read that again. Reach out to us at drunkfriendpodcast at gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Thanks. If you'd simply like to help out the show, remember to rate and review us If you'd simply like to help out the show, oh God. If you'd simply like to help,
leave us good reviews on iTunes is what I say.
Travis, where are you?
We're going to get through this. You can do this. You can do it. Take a deep breath.
If you'd simply like to help out the show, remember to rate and review us wherever you listen. We're on Twitter as well. I'm Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNESDrunk. And find Robert at classicgamingpodcast.com. Is that adequate, Robert?
Yes, I think you got yourself confused with Travis for a second there, but ultimately you made it through.
Thank you. Be sure to catch us all on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.